All right, our next item is a public hearing. We're going to look at accept grant funding and expenditure recommendations for California Citizens Option for Public Safety, COPS, grant for $100,000. We have our chief presentation.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members. The purpose of this is to secure additional funding to be used toward the prevention and reduction of crime and violence. Utilize the funds for equipment improvements of frontline equipment. Each year, depending upon the state's budget, funds may be allocated to law enforcement agencies to assist in carrying out priorities as established by the chief of police or the sheriff in unincorporated areas with the contract city. Over the last several years, monies have been made available through the state of California to local law enforcement agencies in the form of the Citizen Option for Public Safety, the COPS grant. The state government code restricts the money to be used for frontline law enforcement purposes and may not be used to supplant any existing law enforcement services provided by the city. Funding directions are based upon the needs from the Department Management Group in consultation with the rank and file, IT, and other city staff that are directly involved with purchases that we may be making. Last year, the majority of the money from the COPS grant, which was $100,000 also, were utilized to purchase a smart board for training, a drying closet for evidence, night vision optical lights for patrol, and portable cameras that we have staged. We had 2 of those last year that we staged strategically throughout the city, and they're movable. Prior years' expenditures have been for such items as body-worn cameras, portable monitoring cameras, complete infrastructure upgrade of the police radio system, total service weapon upgrade for all the officers, equipping all patrol vehicles with mobile data terminals integrated with the police communications center. This year, well, we suggest a continuation this year along this path of technology, evaluation, and implementation, which has served us well for the past 10 years, over the past 10 years. The majority of the money this year we'd like to place to purchase 2 new pole cameras for remote monitoring of areas identified as needing extra surveillance, forensic light for crime scene investigation, ballistic helmets for patrol. And the reason we're going to a new ballistic helmet is just because of the dramatic increase that we've seen nationwide about officers whenever they're responding to active shooter situations. It is the most unprotected part of an officer right now happens to be their head. And you'll see a lot of officers now that are wearing ballistic helmets. They'll only be used for that purpose. They're not going to be used for purposes of wearing around, but in strategic areas where there's a possibility of imminent danger. We'd also like to purchase plate carriers for patrol, and that's along the same lines. Currently, we have level 3 vests. They protect us to certain armament that's used by bad guys, essentially, to cause harm to us. Our vests can protect against certain rifle rounds, and several years ago here in Yuba City, we had rounds that would definitely penetrate that. So what we're looking at is a plate carrier that will protect to a much greater level, and that'll go directly over the critical areas of an officer's vest. And those, again, will be used for critical situations. Because of the weight, we don't want our officers to have to wear them all the time. And they don't present a great sight, but you got to kind of balance public safety with looking good out there or being practical. Also, new SWAT tactical vests. We're going to replace existing vests. Right now, the government has a program where they reimburse the city for 50% of all costs of vests that we use for patrol purposes, but they don't do it for SWAT. And for SWAT, again, we're using SWAT in critical situations where there's probably a firearm that could be present, whether it's a gang member, where it's a high-risk search warrant. So we want to make sure that our SWAT officers have the best protection that we can afford them, since we're putting them in the most critical situations. And then some other patrol-related items that are a lot smaller in purchase, but those are the major items that we're looking at. The fiscal impact is $100,000 with no matching funds required. The alternative is to provide staff with alternative spending paths which will not supplant the routine expenditures in the general fund per the grant requirement. And the recommendation from the department is to conduct a public hearing and, after consideration, adopt a resolution authorizing the chief of police to accept the fiscal year 2017-2018 COPS funding and approve expenditure recommendations. Further, authorize the chief financial officer to make budget adjustments as necessary. And with that, I'll open it up to any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Does council have any questions for Chief at this time? No? Okay, thank you. So I will go ahead and open it to the public. The public hearing to accept grant funding and expenditure recommendations for California Citizens Options for Public Safety Grant for $100,000 is now open. If there are any members who would like to speak in favor or against or have any comments? Nope. Okay, we'll go ahead and bring it back. And for discussion or a motion?
I'd move staff's recommendation to adopt the resolution authorizing the chief to accept the California Citizens Option for Public Safety Cops funding and approve expenditure as recommended.
Do we have a second?
I'll second, excuse me, I'll second that motion.
If you can keep your voice.
My voice is going away, I guess.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay, motion approved.
Thank you, Mayor, Council.
Thank you.